The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Your host, Craig Proctor.
Hi, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about special event marketing, and I also have our co-host with us, Mr. Rick Brash with KW in Calgary. Rick, welcome to the call.
Thanks, Craig. Great to be here. I'm excited for this.
First thing I want to talk to you about is not doing what everyone else is doing. We're going to start off by talking about traditional open houses, and, those have been around for a long, long time. Chances are you've wasted an enormous amount of time doing a traditional open house where you sit in the seller's house for 3 or 4 hours, and very few people come, and you end up feeling bad that when the seller comes back home, you kind of have to look them in the eyes and say, look, it didn't really work that well. But then we repeat the same thing the following week over and over and over again. So I'm real big on not doing what everyone else does, just for the mere fact that everyone else is doing these things, whether it's advertising your listings like everyone else or sitting in open houses like everybody else. It's not that these things don't work at all. It's just, honestly, they just don't work that well. Rick, I know you spent many, many years doing traditional open houses. Maybe you can share with everybody your experience.
Well, the experience was crappy, Craig. I mean, what's the traditional open house look like? I mean, we think about the open house. We get all dressed up. We get our signs out there. We open the door on Sunday at about noon. We go in. We find the best channel for the best sports. We flip it on, and we sit, and we wait. And we wait. And we wait. And maybe somebody shows up. Maybe somebody walks up the front walk. Then they get to the front door, and they're a little bit standoffish because, first of all, they're not interested in us as agents. They're just interested in the house. They're trying to find a deal. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to sign the guest book. It's a whole bunch of negatives, Craig, crammed into a 3-hour period.
Well, I always felt that they kind of treat it like you have some kind of disease.
Yeah.
They walk into the home, and the realtor approaches them, and you're trying to strike up some kind of lame conversation, and then you follow them around the house. It's a pretty awkward situation.
They just phony.
They want to look at the property. They really don't want you following them around, but you've got to try to get their contact information. A couple weeks ago, I went to some open houses here in Florida, and I was amazed that the realtors didn't even ask me for my contact info. Like, how are you going to follow up with me? You're not. You can't. What's the use of sitting there for 3 or 4 hours and not even not even make an attempt to get the contact information of the buyers that come through the property? In other words, I think these realtors are just resigned to the fact that this is a waste of time. I'm not doing this open house because I think anything good will come out of it. Right. The only reason I'm performing the open house is because the seller wanted me to, or it's some lame promise that I made to the seller because, after all, I've got to show them that I'm doing something to earn my commission.
Right.
So let's have a look at the NAR stats that are in front of us right now on the webinar. It says, where do buyers come from? 40% of buyers come from firm name recognition, salesperson contact. Anyway, just go right to the very bottom there, actually second from the bottom. Only 1% of buyers said they bought an open house they saw. 1%. So, again, we're not going to talk in absolutes that open houses don't work, but 99% of the time they don't. Okay, it's just not an effective way to market the seller's home. We all know this. On the surface, we all agree to this, but then we continue to be engaged in activities like this that are pretty useless. Again, another example of this is advertising the properties. When you advertise one of your specific listings, you already know you're going to get very few calls, and you already know that the vast majority of the few callers that do call you are going to eliminate the property as you start to open your mouth. Right? They're going to tell you it's too big, it's too small, it's in the wrong location, it's too much money or whatever. So what do? Every week, we continue to sit in open houses. Every week, we continue to advertise our properties. And every week, we complain about how hard this business is. Next slide, please. So I get this idea from my father to do a tour. And Rick, I'm sure you've heard this before, but my dad has rental properties.
Right.
My dad.
It's a great story.
Yeah, this is, I'm still living at home. I'm still in my 20s. I'm in real estate. I started when I was 26. So I don't know, 27 years, maybe 28 at the time. I'm at mom and dad's having dinner. My dad comes in. He's frustrated because he wasted an afternoon over at one of his apartments waiting for a would-be tenant to show up. Okay, so he's running an ad for one of these apartments, one of these houses he has. A tenant, would-be tenant calls him, a prospect calls him and says, I'd like to have a look at it. So my dad runs over there, waits like, half an hour there, waits around for half an hour, 40 minutes, half an hour home, and they don't show up. So he's frustrated. So he's got the bright idea that he's never going to do this again. What he's going to do is, instead of showing the rental properties to one tenant at a time, he says, from now on, I'm just going to get them all to come to the apartment at once. Well, a couple of days later, after he tries this, we're sitting at dinner again, and he says, this was a jackpot. Not only am I not concerned if one or two of the 5 or 6 tenants doesn't show for the appointment, I don't really care because 3 or 4 of them did show up. But the real beauty, he says, it creates competition or an auction effect. Now you've got all these tenants forced, on purpose, forced to be at that rental property at exactly the same time. He says, I don't have to talk them into the property. They're pushing their deposit check at me. So he says this is great because there's no selling at all. They're not trying to negotiate the rent. They're fighting over the property. So I'm sitting here thinking, wow, wouldn't this be a great idea to implement in my retail real estate business? Because we've got the same problem, right? Rick, how many open houses have you sat at and nobody shows up?
Well, most of them, Craig.
Now you feel like a real idiot, right, when the seller comes home. Hey, Rick, how did the open house go?
Well, I really enjoyed the game today.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody was there. What does that look like to the seller? It looks like, well, you don't know what you're doing because nobody, it's your fault that nobody came to the house. Now, what normally happens is we don't get nobody. We get maybe 1 or 2 buyers. So 1 or 2 buyers come during the 3 or 4 hours that we're there. Let's say it's a real jackpot open house, and you might have 5 or 6 different buyers come during that 3 hours that you hold the house open. But they come at different times, right? They show up at different times. So what happens? Even if it's a real hot property, Rick, buyer walks in, and you're trying to sell them on the attributes of the property. You might even have another buyer that's interested in the property. But if you dare say that to the buyer, what do they think? If you said to the buyer, the open house buyer that comes in at 1 o'clock, hey, if you like this place, you better get on it because I've got another buyer that's interested, or another buyer that came in earlier today was interested. They think it's a bunch of hogwash, right? They think it's just a sales pitch from a salesperson.
Yeah, they roll their eyes at the ceiling. They look at you like you have 3 heads. They go through the house and they disappear.
Right, and as a salesperson, you're operating at a huge disadvantage. Now, let's flip this around. With the tour idea, what I came up with is I'm going to open each house for 10 or 15 minutes. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Well, Craig, how the heck do you expect to sell a home in 10 or 15 minutes? I don't expect to sell any property in 10 or 15 minutes, but, I could be there for an hour and not expect to sell the house in an hour or 3 hours. Look, in 10 or 15 minutes, we can at least identify who's interested and bring them back for a private showing later that day. But by forcing all the buyers to come to each one of the houses at exactly the same time, it creates competition, or what we like to refer to, Rick, as the auction effect.
Auction effect.
Okay, so imagine this. First of all, you can see by the screenshot that's up there now, this is an ad where I've got 12 houses open. Now, I started with each tour has 6 homes. So you can see the tour at the top. If you look along the side, Rick, it says Newmarket Hall Landing. So those 6 homes are Newmarket Hall Landing. Well, this thing works so well, I started to do a separate tour to the south of my marketplace in Aurora. So you might be thinking, well, gee, Craig, how are you in 2 places at the same time? Or better yet, how are you in 12 places at the same time? This is the great thing about this. I created this concept, this idea. I perfected it, and then I delegated it to my team members. So I never had to work a Sunday again. But let's get back to this auction effect. Because we've got all these homes open, and you might want to start with a tour of maybe even 4 homes, but I've got all these homes open, I find out with 12 houses open, I get 12 times as many buyers coming out. So it's very rare for me to show up at a house during that 10 or 15-minute window that it's open and have nobody show up. But, hey, even if that happened, guess what? I'm pretty glad I'm only there for 10 or 15 minutes, right?
That's right, yeah.
I lock up and I move on to the next house. So I want everyone to understand the structure of this. It's not like I have one of my agents at each one of these houses. I'm at the first house from 1 to 110. I actually have to tell people to leave. Sometimes I'll have 5, 10, 15 people there. Sorry, 10 minutes is up. I'm kicking them out, but I've got all their contact information. I'll share with you how I get all their contact info. And then I've got 15 minutes to get to the next house. You see, the next house is open from 125 to 135. Why are the houses 15 minutes apart? Because in my small town, I can be from one side of town to the next side of town in 15 minutes. So I kick everyone out at 110, lock up the house, jump in my car, and I drive to the next house that's open from 125 to 135. Okay, 10, 15 people the buyers are already waiting there for you. You open the door, all the buyers come in, you hand them the feature sheets, you get them, you get their contact information. As I'll show you in a few minutes, if they don't provide their contact information, they don't get access to the open house. Right. We blame this on security reasons. And, we do need to know who's coming through our seller's home. We do need this information, but also the real reason, of course, we want their contact information is so we can follow up with them and hopefully convert them to a buyer. This is repeated throughout the afternoon. Now, once I had this perfected, I could teach my outside sales agents how to do this. And then, of course, that's when we created the second tour in Aurora. So I would have one agent doing the New Market Hall Landing tour and a second one of my agents doing the Aurora tour. Now, think about this. How cool is this? I got 12 houses open. Well, I'm goofing around with my family or doing whatever I want. I'm pacifying 12 of my sellers. On average, let's shoot real low, Rick. Let's say on average, we get 5 unique buyer agents that show up at each house on average. What is a unique buyer? Unattached, unique buyer unit. What do we mean by that? Unattached, they don't have a realtor. Okay, right. A buyer unit would be like if it's husband and wife, they don't count as 2. Husband and wife would count as 1 buyer unit.
Right.
So realistically, Rick and I, we can average 5 unattached buyer units. You might have 10 people through there, but 5 of them might have a realtor. We're interested in unattached buyer units. If we average 5, which is pretty much what we did all the time, and we have 12 houses open, do the math. That means that we meet 60 unattached buyers in one afternoon. And when I say we, I don't even mean me or you, Rick, because we're off doing something else.
Right.
This is a turnkey system. We build this little system, and then I was on a platinum call yesterday with Todd Walters. Now, I like what he said. He talks about creating something, perfecting it, and then building a fence around it. I like that concept. You build a fence around. Well, I built a fence around this thing. I got it up and running. I built a fence around it. It had nothing to do with me. It just worked.
Now, right, let's talk a little bit about the quality of the buyer that comes through as well, because I think that's important.
Good point. I mean, look at all these internet leads we get now, right? So people, it's so easy for them now to inquire about real estate. They don't even have to get their butt off a chair. They can sit there and use their mouse and click on things. These buyers are actually shoppers. How many of you would argue that somebody that actually shows up, even to a plain old ordinary open house, is a cut above somebody that's looking on the internet? Because they get off their butt, they got in their car, and they drove around. Now, how about this? Take a look at my tour concept. These people are even more qualified because they actually had to put in a concerted effort to show up during that 10-minute window. Like a normal open house, Rick, might be open for 4 hours. So if I'm in Calgary and I live in that neighborhood, I might be just coming back from the convenience store. I grab some milk and I happen to see the open house. Yeah, it's Rick's open house. I might drop in. Well, look if the house is open from 125 to 135, you're not likely going to get as many anyway of those looky-loos. I'm not going to say none of them will show up, but you're really making the buyers jump through hoops. You've got to be there at that window. If you're there early, you don't get in. If you're there late, you don't get in. At the end of the 10 minutes, even if you're in the house, I'm kicking you out. That's very disarming, by the way, to the buyers. They just can't believe that here they are. They're interested in my property. They're showing some interest, and I'm kicking them out after 10 minutes. I'm saying, look, I can bring you back later today for a private one-on-one showing, but I've got to keep the tour on schedule. Now, the other thing that I'm going to encourage all of you is insist that your sellers are present during the tour. You know, Rick, if I had your home for sale, I would say, Rick, I'd like you to, the beauty of this, and I'm going to use this in the listing presentation, is I'm not going to do what everyone else does, Rick. I'm not going to kick you out of your house every Saturday and Sunday for 4 hours. In fact, we encourage you to be present. Because the reason I want the seller to be present is I want to show off my marketing savvy. I want them to see that what I'm doing is working and that I am bringing an average of 5 unattached buyer units through their property every Saturday or Sunday. Now, what does that help me do? It helps me get a price reduction if the house isn't selling. No longer can the seller say to you, well, I don't want to reduce the price yet because you haven't showed it yourself. You haven't brought enough buyers through. Nonsense. Every Sunday they see me, they see the impact of our marketing, and they see us bringing whatever 5, 10, 15 buyers through the property. So no longer can they say our marketing doesn't work, or we haven't had enough showings, or you haven't shown it personally. It's going to help you get the price reduction. By the way, Rick, the language I use with the seller is this. I would say, well, Rick, as you know, we brought through 35 buyers through your home over the last couple of weeks, but unfortunately our buyers aren't interested in your home at that price. That's the feedback we're getting. Now, that's not coming from me, right? It's coming from our buyers. It's so powerful. Now, look at all the benefits. Just line up all the benefits of doing this, because I want to get you folks excited. If you're not doing this, think out of the box. Just stop copying what everyone else is doing. People operate with old paradigms, but industries operate with old paradigms. Why do we do what we do in this business? Mostly because when we got into the business, everyone else does it that way, and the tendency is to look around at what everyone else is doing, and we just copy it. So who was I to question it? Rick, who were you to question it? When you got into real estate in Calgary, you said, okay, well, I guess this is how an open house should be performed.
Right. We call it protecting the status quo.
Right. So you don't question it. You do the same thing, and you get the same crappy results as every other realtor in Calgary. So if you're tired of getting crappy results, you got to think out of the box. You got to change things up a bit. This is designed based around what buyers and sellers want. So let's start with the benefits to the buyers. What are the benefits to the buyers of doing this? First of all, it's the only organized way in my marketplace for buyers to see 12 homes without a real estate agent. Okay, it's organized. They can see all these homes, boom, 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 12 of them. Each house is open for 10 minutes. When they show up, they don't feel like they're being singled out, like the example we gave earlier in the call where, the buyer shows up and only the realtor's car's in the driveway and it's a cat and mouse game and the realtor's breathing down the buyer's throat, and that's not a comfortable experience for buyers. We know that. So now what? The buyer shows up at my tour of homes, doesn't matter what house, a whole bunch of other buyers, cars in the driveway, other buyers are going to be there. There's safety in numbers. So it is a more comfortable environment for the buyer. They like it. Okay. What other benefits? What are benefits for buyers? Get to see a bunch of houses. I don't have to have this interaction with a realtor like I normally would. Great selection. Okay. It's super, super convenient. And I can come back and look at any of these homes on a private one-on-one showing like traditionally I can do that at any time later in the same day. What are the benefits for sellers? Okay, first benefit is I don't get kicked out of my house on the weekend for 3 or 4 hours. Okay, benefit number 2, creating this auction effect or creating more competition for my house. And they're going to get immediate feedback right away. This is more convenient for sellers. Sellers love this idea. And this whole idea that the buyers are going to be a lot more qualified because we're jumping them through hoops. They've got to, they're shopping. They're out there shopping. Let's understand that people that are out there looking at our tour are shoppers. They're further along in the purchase process. They're not just sitting on the internet or reading a newspaper. They're actually out there driving around looking at homes, and they had to show up specifically during that 10-minute window. Okay, now here's another little secret. If you don't have enough homes in your tour, you want to put a few more homes on your tour, you could approach people that are for sale by owner in your marketplace. And what you do is you sign them up to a 24-hour exclusive listing, not an MLS, just a 24-hour exclusive listing. And again, you encourage that for sale by owner to be present during the 10 or 15-minute window of the tour. Guess what happens? You bring more buyers to that FSBO's home in 10 minutes than they've had through their home in months. Guess who they want to list with. Also, it's a real great ethical way to solicit your competitors' listings. How many phone calls would I get every single month where people would say, you know, I'm listed with Century 21, but I want to be part of that tour you have. My neighbor was listed with you, and they sold because of the tour 2 weeks ago, so we want to switch to you. So there's just so many benefits to doing this. And the final benefits are for us realtors. Look at the leverage here. You get to pacify 6 or 12 of your sellers. You get to meet dozens and dozens of buyers. If nobody shows up, who cares? You're only there for 10 minutes. That would be your worst case scenario. Nobody shows up at one of the particular homes. But here's the biggie. You end up double-ending a much higher percentage of your listings because you're exposing your listings to lots of buyers, right? That's how we double-end stuff. We get lots of sellers. We get lots of buyers. We put them together. The best way to get along with the other agent is when you are the other agent. Now, I want everyone to look at the copy here, the copy that explains the tour. Everybody see that in the top right-hand corner? It says, Craig's Sunday Tour of Homes is a quick and easy way to preview several homes in a couple of hours without any pressure or hassle. The Sunday Tour of Homes is a great way to get an overview of what homes and features are available in your price range. Here's how it works. The tour runs between 1 and 3:15 p.m., and you can meet us at any of the homes on the tour. So we want to make that clear. They don't have to go to all the homes. Okay, and there's no bus. Some of you are thinking, well, would you get a bus to take some from house to house? There's no bus, right? How many times have we been asked that question, Rick?
Oh, 100 times.
Yeah, there's no bus. Hey, I got to tell you, Rick, this is funny. The last super conference we're doing, I'm talking about the Sunday Tour of Homes. We go to a break, and believe it or not, this true story, somebody walks up and they say, Craig, what day do you do the tour of homes? I'm like, what part of Sunday Tour of Homes don't you get? Anyway, we do get some silly questions on this, but there's no bus. There's no bus. They can go to any home or any of the homes they want to go to. They might be interested in house 1 and house 4, so there's no bus. We're making that clear. You can go to any home that you want. It says, we encourage them. It says, feel free to drive by any of the homes on the tour before their scheduled tour times. Okay, we're also saying in bold there, we're saying there will be a lot of other buyers on the tour, and show times are exact. Why are we saying that? We want to make sure that it's clear that this is a safe place to go. You're going to be one of many, 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 many other buyers. What does that say to the buyer? This is safety. I'm going to be one of many buyers. I'm not going to feel singled out. But we're warning them, don't be late. Don't be late or you'll miss it. We have to keep the tour on schedule. So if you're late, you're out of luck. Okay, let's go to the next slide there, Adrian. Okay, now, this is right out of my my listing book, and you're welcome to, of course, use all this information, Sunday Tour of Homes, and we talked about the problem. You can see the guy, the passive approach, right? That's a passive approach. This guy sitting at a traditional open house, a few Z's coming out of his mouth, he's watching TV. And then we've got the Sunday Tour of Homes. So, again, we're reiterating the benefits towards buyers and the benefits for sellers. Next slide. Okay, again, this is more information that you can use with your communications with buyers and sellers. This is out of my newsletter, my monthly newsletter. I'm explaining how we attract more buyers to your home using a Sunday Tour of Homes versus a traditional open house. People who come to our Sunday tour are pre-qualified buyers, not curiosity seekers. Next slide.
Craig, I just want to add one thing here that that really hit me hard years ago when you taught me this was this program, the Sunday Tour of Homes. Not only does it create this auction effect on Sundays, but it also helps us and our members become even better marketers than ever. Because look at this marketing piece that you're putting on the page now. I mean, this is cutting-edge marketing. There isn't anybody anywhere who can create leads from this type of marketing like we can. If it's a traditional open house setting, what can you do to bring this many people in? Well, you put out more signs, or you offer food. So people come to your open house for what? They don't come for the house. They don't come to see anything else other than to get the free hot dog. Now, how many times have we seen that going on in the community? This program falls into the marketing category. And if you're like me, I've compartmentalized the Quantum Lead system into 3 parts of my business. Part number 1 is lead creation. And this is one of the best pillars you can have in your business. You often hear me talk about this multi-layered marketing approach for one sole purpose. And Craig will tell you this. The sole purpose for any kind of marketing that we do is to create opportunity or generate leads. Yes, we keep our sellers happy, but guess what? As Craig just alluded to, maybe 40, 50, 60 people are all of a sudden identifying themselves through this marketing concept that they want to buy in the next 60 days. Man, it does not get any better than this.
You'll notice the page that's up there now in the webinar. We have 2 tours. One's a new market Aurora, one's a new market. So you can expand this and have as many tours as you want once it works without you. So that's the key. And I want everyone to write this down to make sure that they understand, what's so important for all of us. We need to create these ideas. Then we need to perfect them. Okay, you need to be the one doing the tour. You need to perfect it, get all the kinks out. And then you need to delegate it to somebody else. So you create something, you perfect it, and then you delegate it. You basically build a fence around it. I want everyone to understand that I did these tours for over 20 years and had nothing to do with me. When I say it wasn't me. I was able to enjoy my family on Sundays, never worked Sundays, but I was generating over 60 qualified buyer leads and pacifying 12 of my sellers. Double-ending listings, sales are going on. It had nothing to do with me. You build the concept, you perfect it, you delegate it out. Now, most of you are going to be at the building stage, right? You're going to do this yourself. You're going to figure it out. And then eventually, if you've got a team member, you want to hire somebody, you can start to expand this. I remember I was in a small town of 50,000 people. Rick, if I was in Calgary, in your marketplace, I probably would have had 4 of these tours going on. Mm-hmm. Right? You could do one of these tours in every quadrant of town or in different price ranges. Right. I see that some of our members are super creative with this. Some of them might have a luxury home tour. Some of them might have a foreclosure, a bank foreclosure. They're all REO listings, all bank foreclosures on the tour of homes. Or how about this, a fixer-upper tour of homes with the properties that need some tender loving care. Okay, or a first-time buyer tour of homes. I just want to get the creative juices here. The great thing about real estate, it's so easy to make money in this business if you just think out of the box. And the opposite is true as well, isn't it, Rick? It's so hard to make money in this business when you do what everyone else does.
And it's really easy to say, well, Craig, this worked great for you, and Rick, I know this worked great for you. I probably can't make this work because in my market, it's different. Well, listen up. Craig and I can tell you about members in places like Manhattan, San Francisco, downtown Dallas, downtown Vancouver, British Columbia, where our members do a tour inside of a condo building. They'll open up 7 or 8 or 9 condos in one building for 15 minutes each. And guess what? They are knocking it out of the park in a price point over $1 million. We've heard this 100 times.
Well, it's simple. If you do what we do, it'll work. If you don't do it correctly, it's not going to work. And you just have to follow the steps. And that's why we make sure everyone's clear on what an opportunity this is. I mean, imagine if eventually you could have 6 or 12 homes open in your marketplace every single Saturday or Sunday. It's got nothing to do with you.
Right.
Okay. You're generating your team is generating all these leads. You're pacifying your sellers. Homes are being sold, and you're doing something else.
One more thing you should mention, Craig, about this program that I really gravitated towards, as you know, was the signage that you used. Tell everyone how your signs work.
All right, we're going to get to that. Let's keep going with the slides, and I'll show you. I've got pictures of the signs, I think, coming up here. Okay, now, some of you might be saying, well, gee, Craig, I look at your ads here that you just showed me. These are big, $500 ads. I can't afford that. That's cool. How about a classified ad like this? New market, view 6 lovely homes on Sunday, May 26th from 1 to 3 p.m., private treat lots, quiet streets, low and no money down, free recorded message, or drive them to your website. Visit newmarkethometour.com or calgaryhometour.com. And when they get there, they get this on your website. You could recreate that ad I just showed you, right? Once you get them to your website, it doesn't cost you anything. So the point I want to make is you can use a small $25, $30, $40 classified ad to drive buyers to your landing page or to a recorded message that explains about all the homes that are going to be open on the tour. That's the way you do it on a budget. Okay, and what's the benefit? You get to view 6 lovely homes on Sunday or 12 homes or whatever it is. Think out of the box. You don't have to start with a great big $500 ad. Next slide, please. We're going to give you, okay, there's the script that you would use. If you use a hotline, I'm giving you the script here. The Sunday Tour of Homes is a great way to get an overview of what homes and features are available in your price range. Most Sundays, we conduct 2 tours of 6 homes each. The tours run between 1 and 3:15 p.m. You can come to all the homes in the tours or meet us at any of the home on either tour. Feel free to drive by the homes before their scheduled tour time. But once the tour starts, don't be late for the ones you want to preview. There's going to be lots of other buyers on the tour, and the show times are exact so as not to hold up buyers who will be waiting to see the next home. As you may be aware, my Sunday Tour of Homes operates very differently from a traditional open house. Traditional open houses are sometimes uncomfortable for both buyers and sellers because you've got a hovering agent watching your every move. In fact, according to industry statistics, less than 1% of homes are sold as a result of a traditional open house, and it goes on and on and on. It says, that's why we don't do them. Next slide, please. Okay, here's a flyer you could send out. So, Rick, let's say that I'm going to do a Sunday Tour of Homes in Glenway Estates in that country club area in Newmarket. I could send this flyer out. Now, why would I want to send a flyer out to people that live in Glenway if the tour is going to be in Glenway Estates? Well, guess what? That's where a lot of the buyers are going to come from. They're going to be friends and relatives of people that already live there. So what did it cost me to produce these flyers? Nothing, because I run them on my broker's fax machine. Don't tell her I said that, but that's what I do. I run them on. I run 500 of these off. Boom, it cost me nothing. Okay. Then I've got a teenager that'll deliver these, or you could even insert them on a postal walk in the local paper. You could do an insert or, the post office on a postal walk or insert them in a local paper. You get these distributed. So you can use small little classified ads, okay, or you can use postcards and flyers. Next slide, please. Okay, and signage. That's another way that you're going to get the word out. See, none of this stuff costs a lot of money, right? What's it cost to run the little classified ad? $30, $40 maybe? What's it cost to run the flyers? Use your broker's machine. Costs you nothing. What's it cost to stick a second sign out the week before the home's open on the tour? Costs you nothing. So I made up these little signs. It cost me about $20. It says Craig Proctor's Sunday Tour of Homes. You could have your website on there. They could visit, calgaryhometour.com. They could go right there or call your office. But that sign is right next to the normal RE/MAX sign. And then, of course, we've got our talking house signs where people can pull in, turn their AM radio to 1610, and they can get all the information on the home and on the tour and how the tour works. So I'm a big believer in signage because it's free. It's like having a free billboard. Get 12 homes open. You can have 12 Sunday tour signs in front of those homes, and I put them up a week before. So I don't want to confuse people, so you can't put them up before a week, right? So I'm going to put them up maybe like on the Monday, the preceding Monday for that Sunday. And we're doing all these things to promote it. And you got internet going on. We've got our hotlines. We've got our signage. We've got flyers. We've got big display ads. The better job you do of marketing the tour, of course, the better it works because more people come out. Next slide, please. Okay, now this is cool. My buyer agents, these are the people actually doing the tour while I'm at home goofing off or doing whatever I want to do. They have these little magnetic stickers on the door of their car, and they're going from house to house to house. And the buyers are following my buyer agent from house to house to house. So the first house is open from 110 to from 1 to 110. They lock the door up, kick everyone out at 110. They go to the next house, and the buyers are following them around town. And you've heard me say this, Rick, it almost looks like a funeral procession, right? Like they're following the car around town from house to house to house. Next slide, please. Now, I said earlier, they all have to sign in. You know, we don't want to be like these realtors in Florida that I experienced a couple weeks ago. I couldn't believe it, Rick. I mean, I'm walking in, I'm pretending to be a buyer. I'm giving out all the buyer vibes because I just want to see. This is what I do when I go to different places. I want to see what they do. I look at realtor publications.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, I'd like to check it out and see how good or usually how pathetic they are. So I go to 3 or 4 open houses. Nobody asked me for any contact information. You know, I explain, I'm a buyer. I'm here from Canada. I'm thinking, I don't know, what did I have to do? Have a suit made out of $100 bills? I could not get their attention. Nobody asked me for their contact information. So we're not going to make that mistake. When you get to get to the house, you're going to be standing at the door. As the buyers come in, you're going to say this. You're going to say, the sellers asked us for security purposes to have everyone register before they gain entrance. Now, once in a while, I'll get some jerk that doesn't want to fill in the card, and that's okay. You can't come in. Okay, we can't let people in. I mean, that's the agreement that we're going to have with the seller, that people, to gain access, have to give us their contact information. That's the rules of the game. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do I have your permission to not admit people that won't be forthcoming with their contact information? Certainly, Craig. We don't want people that we don't know of going through our property. Now, it's one thing to force them to sign in the card, but you know, you might be thinking, well, Craig, then if you force them to give you information, they'll just give you fake or false information. Okay, that's true. So we have to make a benefit. We have to make a benefit here. Give them a benefit to sign in the card. So if they give us their accurate information, we're willing to send them out a buyer profile. Okay, we're willing to mail or email them information on homes that match their criteria. We're willing to give them a free market evaluation. We're willing to send them my monthly newsletter. Okay, so if they give us false contact information, they're not going to get the list of homes that match their criteria. They're not going to get information on what homes are selling for in their area, and they're not going to get our monthly newsletter. So that does help compel them to give us real contact information. Next slide, please. Okay, that was a Sunday tour of homes. I want to talk about something different here. You may have heard me mention this at the Super Conference, but once I had the Sunday tour of homes working really, really well, I moved on to the next idea, right? You build a fence around it, and it just works without you, and now I have Sundays, I'm goofing off, I'm with my family, whatever. Now, I thought, what can I do for sellers? See, this picture you see in front of you right now is a picture of coaching members at my RE/MAX office. You know, when the seminars were really, really small, and I used to have them in Toronto, we would bring by bus all the coaching members up to my office to actually meet all my team members and see how everything worked. What coaching members would say to me over and over again is, Craig, your office is unbelievable. You know, if, they would say this. They would say, Craig, why doesn't everyone in your town list with you? And I started thinking about that. Well, the reason everyone in my town doesn't list with me is because they don't know what I do, right? They don't know what I do. They don't understand what I do, or they don't believe it. So I thought, well, why don't I do this? Since it seems that practically every seller is interviewing realtors, why don't I advertise an open house for sellers? The people that are thinking of listing their home in the next couple months can come to my office, and I'm going to show them exactly what I do that's different than all the other realtors, because my office is very impressive. So I'll show them my buyer agent department. I'll show them my database coordinator. I'll show them our listing agents. I'll show them our customer service manager. I'll show them that we've got the entire second floor of this RE/MAX office. And, you know, the question, of course, that I would put to them is, you can hire me and my entire team for the same price as hiring a single agent. You know, what do you think would better serve you? And showing them what we did was far more powerful than just telling them. So we started to advertise this on television and in the newspaper, that if you're thinking of selling your home, you know, come and see what we can do for you. We're not going to just tell you, come and see. And this worked very well. So I did the first couple office tours, perfected it, right? I created it, I perfected it, then I built the fence around it. I delegated it. So again, now this thing works without me. On Saturdays, we've got our office open, our office tour, and my tour guides, which are my agents, are rotating. They're taking turns doing this. And this is, doing a really great job of converting sellers or compelling them to list with us, even if they're interviewing other people. Showing them what we did and showing them our whole office was pretty much a slam dunk. We would challenge them. We'd say, look, I don't know who else you're thinking of listing with, but you've looked at our operation. Go look at their operation. Then they go over to Century 21, and that single agent who works by themselves would have to walk them in and show them their bullpen. Okay, no comparison. So if you've got an impressive office, if you've got a team, if you think what you offer is far above your competitors, you might want to do an office tour like I did. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. We started doing over-the-phone home seller seminars. And, Rick, I know you've done buyer seminars. It's very commonplace, right? In your marketplace, you probably have, I know Century 21 in our marketplace has first-time buyer seminars, and you have to go to, like, the local Howard Johnson's, or even worse, they tell buyers you've got to come to their office. So let's make it easy. Let's make it easier and more convenient for buyers and sellers and do this right over the phone. Okay, today you could do a webinar. You could do a webinar for buyers and sellers. Okay, you could do stuff online on your website for them. But we did this over the phone. And the way I organized this is I had my lender participate on this, I had my real estate lawyer participate on this, and, of course, me. So this was sort of billed as everything you need to know about selling your home, how to avoid all the mistakes, how to do this right. And we're going to be interviewing one of the top real estate lawyers in town. We're going to be interviewing one of the top lenders in town, and we're going to interview one of the top realtors in town. So you can see here this was positioned as a public notice. Okay, there's really no mention of RE/MAX. We're not trying to sell them. We're just trying to get them on the call. Now, we did this call a couple times, and guess what happened? It got better and better and better and better. So once we had it perfected, we had the call recorded, and then the call just played over and over and over again. What have we done? We built it, we perfected it, and we delegated it out. Good leverage, right? It's got nothing to do with me now. Now this call can play every Tuesday and Thursday. Now, we told people, you probably can't read this here, but we told people that they never had to identify themselves. And it was true. When they called into the 800 number, they didn't have to identify themselves. And you might be thinking right now, well, what good is that, Craig, if you don't know who called in? Well, what we did, how we got them to raise their hands, is I offered a free report on how to price and prepare your home for sale, but they had to call into my 800 number to get it. Okay, my attorney, my real estate lawyer, offered a special report on how to avoid legal mistakes when buying or selling real estate. And my lender offered a special report on how to avoid mistakes when getting financing, how to get the best financing, how to get the lowest down payment, best interest rates, and so on. So each one of us offered a different report. We drove them all to the same 800 number, but each one of us gave a different 4-digit ID number where we had the appropriate hotline script. So all I had to do was pull off the messages. I pull off the messages of prospects that were on the call, liked what they heard. They requested either my real estate report, the lawyer's legal report, or the lender's financing report. And now I would call them back using the universal callback script. But here's what I found. These people were pre-sold on me. What I mean by that is they were really, really easy to convert because they didn't see me as a common salesperson. They saw me as an expert. Positioning, right? I was viewed as the expert. That's what the call did. The call attracted people that were selling their home. Like nobody else would come on this call unless you were thinking of selling your home. So we had a very, very good audience. Okay, these are people that are perfectly matched to me. I'm in the job of selling houses. These people all want to sell their home. And now the job of the call was to give me expert status, to make me look smart. And who do you want to take advice from? You want to take advice from somebody that you perceive to be the expert. So that was the job of the call. So we worked on this call. We worked on it, and we got it down. Once we had it down, it was recorded, and the call just plays over and over and over again while I'm doing something else. But these leads come in, so all I have to do is a couple times a week after the call plays, I call into my hotline, I pull out the leads, I call these people back, and they're like, oh, Craig, I can't believe you're really calling me back yourself. Very, very easy to convert, highly qualified leads. Next slide, please. Okay, here's an example of a flyer that went out again promoting the free 30-minute over-the-phone home seller seminar. In 30 minutes, here's our promise. This is what you're going to learn. Now, you can do this for buyers. You could do this, you could do this for first-time buyers or luxury home buyers or high-end sellers or first-time sellers. I just want you folks to start thinking out of the box. Just don't do what everyone else does in this business, and you'll make lots of money. Now, Rick, I know you've done all this. Maybe you want to comment on some of the seminars you've done.
Well, Craig, I'll be honest, I never did a seller seminar. Sort of my forte, my growth came when I put together just killer buyer programs. So we've done a number of buyer seminars over the year, but we've always followed your model. I never went out there, tried to recreate the wheel. I simply copied the format that you had prepared. And something we haven't mentioned today, a great way to get people to react to an upcoming seminar, whether it be a buyer seminar or a seller seminar, is just put a little ad on some piece of social media that you're working with. Everybody these days is using social media. If you want to make everybody aware of something you're going to do in the future, a buyer seminar, seller seminar, whatever, put it on Facebook. And you'll very quickly drive traffic from the Facebook ad right to your landing page and your website. And you can create a drove of people who actually will show up at a local meeting room, who will sit through your presentation. And think about this. Now, instead of having your buyer's agents or yourself out there chasing individuals one at a time, doing single buyer's presentations one at a time, getting them signed, which is fine, you now have a room maybe of 30 people who are sitting there who will, of course, like what you're talking about, who will hang around after the seminar, who will become your client. For you coaching members listening today, we're simply showing you the method. All you have to do is take it and copy it where you live. You don't have to change it. You don't have to come up with new ideas. You don't have to come up with new verbiage. All you simply have to do is take this and copy it, and that's what I did. I simply copied the tour of homes. In fact, if you look at my full-page marketing piece, it's the mirror image of Craig's, except it has my picture. If you were to look at my seminar marketing, it's exactly the same as what Craig gave me 10 years ago. This is still relevant, cutting-edge marketing that creates response immediately when you put it out there in the marketplace. So take advantage of this stuff, guys. This is really good stuff.
All right, let's go to the next slide, Rick. Thanks for that. Let's go to the next slide, and I think we're pretty much at the end. Yes. Okay. Let's go to questions, and Rick and I will take as many questions as we have time for.
Our first guest is Marianne Pettis. Please go ahead.
Hi, guys. Good morning, and thanks for putting this together for us today. It was very informative. I don't have any listings, so I'd really like to do something like this.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention you don't even need any listings. You can borrow listings from other agents in your office.
That's what I wanted to ask.
All you have to do is approach them, Marianne, and say, look, I'd like to give your listings some extra exposure. Would you be okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
And chances are their sellers have been bugging them for an open house anyway, so they'll probably welcome the fact that you'll take that over for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so they don't have to be your listings. If you've got agents that work at your brokerage that have lots of listings, I would approach them and say, look, I'd like to give some of your listings some extra exposure. I'd like to include them on my next tour of homes. Would you be interested?
Right.
Okay, that would work. And I finally did join a nice large office where they do have lots of listings, so I could most definitely do that. What do you think about calling recent expired listings and see if they would like to have their home included?
Yeah, I always like that idea if I was short a listing or two. So I mentioned this area, Glenway Estates. It's a nice golf course country club in our area. And, maybe I only had 4 listings of my own, or our company only had 4. You could approach 2 expired listings. People have come off the market the last month or two and say, look, I know you're not listed right now, but I'm going to be bringing all these buyers into Glenway Estates. I've already got 4 homes that are open. would you like to be included? And especially when you explain to them, it's only 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And you can be there. We're not kicking you out of the house. You can be there. I want to show you how well this, it's going to, if they say yes, and they will be present while you bring all these buyers through, it certainly helps your chances of getting their listing.
And did I hear you mention earlier that you then put them on a 24-hour listing contract?
Yeah, correct, which is fair because obviously you want to be compensated for anybody that you introduce during the tour, but it doesn't obligate the seller to you further than that.
Okay.
The other thing you can think about,
they may feel that, if the tour is a big success, if I was that expired home seller and you approach me with this concept and you bring lots of people through, what am I thinking about you? I'm thinking, well, first of all, you have to get up and go to put this together and to contact me. There's all these homes that are already on the market. Well, you had the forethought to organize this and then contact me. And then you've impressed me. You got through all these buyers through my home in 5 or 10 minutes. I like you. You're creative. You're a go-getter.
Right. The other thing, too, is if you're putting together a subdivision-specific Sunday tour, what prevents you from approaching someone who's trying to sell without an agent? What prevents you from bringing 1 or 2 FSBOs onto your tour, again, using the same format? You would get a 24 or a 48-hour listing. You'd put the sign in the yard on the Monday or the Tuesday.
Yep, so you're protected.
You can certainly include, and I did that a number of times. Where I live, it's a big city. 1.3 million live here. So covering the whole city was a little bit of a challenge. So what we would do is we would do a subdivision-specific Sunday tour. And if I had 2 listings in a subdivision, we'd go find 2 or 3 more, and we would call expireds, or we would call a couple of FSBOs, and we'd get them on the tour as well. And again, it's great exposure for you as an agent, and it gets you the listing down the road.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think I'm definitely going to try this. I like
the one thing we all want to remember about the Sunday tour is it has 2 major benefits. It makes you really shine in the eyes of your seller. And number 2, and everybody needs to remember this falls in the marketing category, and this is an outstanding way for you to create leads in your business. This is a marketing program. This will create leads for you every single time you run it, and that's the crucial benefit to this program.
Mm-hmm.
As you circle around this idea, it's hard to pick flaws with it because everyone benefits. The buyer benefits, the sellers benefit, we benefit. There's just no downside to doing this. This is a no-brainer, I think, for all of you. Even if you have no listings, you can borrow the listings. You don't have to start with 6 homes. You can start with 3 or 4 homes. Start small, yeah. And as this concept proves itself to you, you can start to expand on it.
The one thing I will mention, Craig, is some of our members right now may be thinking who've never done this before is all of this organization. It's a little intimidating. It's a little bit daunting. And you're right. Setting this up locally for yourself does take a little bit of discipline. It takes a little bit of work. But if you look at some of the tools that are available to you, for example, on your branded website, you have a Sunday tour homepage that you can drive traffic to anytime you want. With the flip of a mouse, 2 or 3 clicks, you have your house, your listing on that page ready to go.
Yeah, right on your success website.
It's all there. All these tools are there now. You can create a sign for the front yard for, like Craig said, $20 or $25. I did that. You can include a sign rider on your for sale sign for $10. I did that. All the things we've talked about today, you have to create them once. Now you have these resources to go to every time you want to run the tour. And as Craig indicated, once you get this figured out, once you get it figured out for your area and your location, you now have a system that you can delegate to somebody on your team. And that's a very important thing. So, yeah, you're going to have to put it together. But once it's done, you've got a great tool.
Do we have on our coaching website samples of all of the script that you just shared with us in this webinar, as well as the signs and ads that you used, Craig?
I'm pretty sure everything is on the coaching site if you check that out. But anything you need, contact our office and we'll get it to you. And you may take our information and make some small twists to it, but I think most of the heavy lifting is done for all of you folks. Really, all you need to do is copy this. I would just start by copying exactly all the resources we have And, if you want to innovate after the fact, that's fine. But just, everything's pretty much laid out for you folks.
Great.
Do you have a sampling or a copy of your archive, that free 30-minute over-the-phone seminar that you used to do?
Yes, it's recorded. If you go to the coaching site, there's an icon right on the home page, and it says special events. Okay, and then there's going to be an audio recording. You can actually listen to that entire call.
Oh, great. Oh, excellent. Well, you are making this easy, aren't you?
We're trying. Well, look, we know that if there's any reason for people not to do it, sometimes they'll gravitate to that. So we've been doing this for a long time. We're trying to first of all get everyone excited. I mean, that's the first thing. We got to get you excited about, hey, let's do something different. We can't be the same as everybody else. And then we want to prove to everybody this really works. Here's what it did for me in my business. Rick on the call saying, yes, here's what it did for me. And then, trying to basically create templates for everything. So you really don't have to, have a creative bone in your body. All you have to do is plug yourself into it.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the call here today. Let's see who's next.
Our next guest is Leo Desjardins. Please go ahead.
Hi, Craig and Rick. How are you guys?
Good, Leo. How are things in Sudbury?
Very well. Thank you for remembering. The one question was the lady that just asked if you didn't have the listings, if you could borrow them, and you control the people going through the house. When say you have 6 or 8 people all at one time coming, would you have the seller stay home, or would you have the seller go out?
The house is going to be open for 10, maybe 15 minutes top, and I'm going to encourage them to be there. Now, we don't want them following the buyers around. They can be in the background, but you and I understand why we want them there. We want them there so that, A, it proves to them that Leo knows what he's doing, that your marketing does work, and it's going to help you perhaps down the road get a price reduction.
Mm-hmm.
If you do this tour of homes every other week on their home for a couple months, you bring through all these buyers, and the house still isn't sold, you've got some social proof that you've done your job, right? You brought umpteen buyers through their home. They know that. They witnessed it, and the buyers have not been interested in making an offer at that price. So it's going to give you that leverage you need to get that home priced properly.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Leo. Let's see who's next.
Our next guest is Jean Hastings. Please go ahead.
Hello, Jean.
Jean, your line is open.
Sorry about that. I had it muted. I just wanted to, I got on the call a little bit late. The materials that you were showing, though, are those on the website somewhere? Is there somewhere we can find those?
Yes. You can find most of it right on the home page of the coaching site. You're going to see an icon that says Special Event Marketing.
Okay.
Okay. Also, you can go to coaching call number 13, Special Event Marketing, and you're going to see attachments and more materials there.
Oh, okay. Great.
Okay. If you go under call decks, to do that under resources, go to call decks, go to coaching call 13, or just as easy as clicking on the Special Event Marketing icon right on the home page.
Right. Yeah, I'm here now. All right. Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, Rick, you want to add at this point as far as when you started the coaching program and you were first introduced to these concepts, let's talk about what was going through your head and how you overcame any skepticism you had and actually got this stuff implemented.
Well, sure. I mean, I'll be frank with you, Craig. I first heard about this stuff and I thought, well, this is great for where Craig works. This is great where Craig is because Craig's in a small market and everybody knows him. Craig is a relative rock star where he lives. I'm not. How's this going to work for me? I had to set the pride aside. I had to be willing to adapt because here's the long and short of it. What I had been doing up until now had not served me well. I was a real expert at failing as a real estate agent because I was quite willing to protect the status quo, as I mentioned earlier. I was willing to keep doing the same thing I'd been doing, the same thing everybody else was doing, and a very, very small percentage of people locally were making any money. So if I kept doing what they were doing, I was destined to fail. Craig comes along with all these great ideas, and this Sunday tour of homes, it hit me like a Mack truck. And I remember thinking, boy, if I could just get that to work, think of the people I would have that need to buy a house that I would meet at the Sunday tour of homes. And I started to do them on my own. I would go out on Sunday. I'd leave my wife and my 2 kids behind, and I'd go out and I'd do them. I'd do 6 houses in a subdivision, and I'd pick up a buyer or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. We got really good at it, Craig, and then I was able to give it to the buyer's agents who were working with me. And the buyer's agent's job was to go out on Tuesday and put the sign up and bring the sign back to my garage on the following Monday when we had our Monday meeting. And all of a sudden, boom, our business mushroomed. Here's what I know. It's really easy for us to say, that'll work for you, but it probably won't ever work for me. That's the easy way out. That's the lazy way of thinking. That, my friends, is the mistake that you're making. This is an easy program to implement. Everything Craig talked about today, he taught me 10 years ago, and everything he talked about today has made me hundreds of thousands of dollars, has created hundreds and hundreds of sales for me because this is innovative. It's cutting edge, and people react to it. If you can get your head around the fact that, yes, it's different, yes, it is out-of-the-box thinking, yes, it will take some work to get it working in my local market right away, but once it's up and running, I have this great lead generation tool in my box. If we can get you beyond that skeptical position, your business will double very, very quickly, and that's what we want. We're only teaching you things that work, that have a track record, that Craig perfected, that his top members perfected, and now we want you to perfect it. And if you have questions about this, go to your coach and say, how does this work? What should I do? How should I implement this? Send Craig an email. Send me an email. We'll help you understand how well this can work in your marketplace. And by the way, guys, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you live in the smallest little farming community in Iowa or a big metropolitan city like Los Angeles or Calgary or Vancouver. It doesn't matter. Direct response marketing will create response, positive response for your business. It will grow opportunity for you every single day. You just have to get off your butt and do it. And once you get good at that, boy, the money's going to roll in.
Okay, well, look, we're going to wrap it up then for today. All the resources you'll find on the coaching website. If you have any questions at all, you can, of course, contact our office or contact your coach. But, Rick, I want to thank you very, very much for doing this today. And, Adrian, thanks for all your work in preparing the webinar.
No problem.
All right, everyone, well, have a great day. Go back and sell some houses. But that concludes our webinar for today. Take care.